Alright, Bible Story, Volume 5. That's by Arthur S Maxwell. That's where we're at. And I got after I get through this book, I got 5 more to go. Oof, hard thing to do. Okay, this is part 1, Story 2, God's Messenger. Far from the cities of Judah and Israel, out in the rugged, unsettled region of Gilead, Elijah grew to manhood. Like John the Baptist, who lived in the same place years afterwards, he knew nothing of life's comfort. Food was scarce, clothes were hard to get. His only luxury was talking with God. Many times he must have wondered why God did not do something about all this wickedness in the land. Many times he must have looked up into the sky and cried, "How long, O Lord, how long?" Then at last God spake, as he always does when his time has come. He told Elijah to go to Ahab, now the king of Israel, and tell him that because of his sins a great drought would come upon the country, that there would be neither dew nor rain for years. Yeah, long years. It was not a pleasant message to take to the king, but fearlessly Elijah set out to deliver it. Without a thought of danger to himself, he made his way over the mountain trail to Samaria, where Ahab had his capital and had built a temple to Baal. Arriving in the city, he walked up the busy main street that led to the palace on the hill. Passing the guard at the gate, he entered the hall where the king was sitting on his throne with many courtiers around him. Quickly, all eyes turned to the stranger who had suddenly appeared in their midst. Who was this man, dressed in rough garments of haircloth and a girdle of leather? What was he doing in the king's court? Soon the prophet Rose's Soon the prophet's voice, strong and powerful, rang into the ears of the assembly. As the Lord God of Israel liveth, before whom I stand, there shall not be a dew nor rain these years, but but according to my words. What happened next we are not told, but there must have been quite a stir. Is the man mad? Ahab might as well said. Does he think he can control the dew and the rain? Does he think his God is stronger than Baal? At this, the courtiers laughed, jeering at Elijah as he made his way to the door and disappeared. Yeah, it said, I think the years is 3. Um, it was a long time to be in a drought, and 3 years is really long. Even here where I'm at, just a few months of not having water is not a good thing. Alright, let's get back to the story. But Elijah's warning was not a laughing matter. The dry weather began, just as he said it would. Day after day, the sun beat down upon the parched land out of a cloudless sky. There was no dew at night, nor rain by day. Soon the whole courtside looked on a took on a deep brown hue. Not a green blade of grass was to be seen anywhere. Cattle roamed far and wide, looking for something to eat. Streams ran dry. The water level of the wells dropped alarmingly as autumn fall failed to bring the rainy season. The land was almost too hard to plow. Farmers sowed seed they had been saving for a grain crop from the grain crop of the year before, but it hardly began to grow before it shriveled up. Winter came by and passed, and still there were no rain. People watched the cloud watched People watched the clouds in vain. They and passed over and left no moisture, and usually spring harvest failed to appear. Now the cattle began to die by hundreds. Their bodies of bony cows, sheep, and goats laid unburied for the cows, for the crows and the buzzards to eat. Everybody was worried now, for from the king in his palace to the humblest shepherd in the hills, all knew that they were facing starvation and ruin. But instead of praying to God, they turned to Baal, Asheroth, and Molech. Send us rain, they cried to their idols, but no rain came. Another blazing summer passed, another scorching autumn, another winter of rainless clouds passing overhead. Would there never be an end to this dreadful drought? People wondered. Must Palestine turn into a desert? Many times King Ahab thought about the man who had come to see him in his palace, the man who had claimed to be a prophet of Jehovah and said there would be no dew or rain unless he said so. Perhaps he didn't know how to control the weather. Perhaps he was able to keep the rain from falling on the earth. Where was he? He must be found at all costs. He must be made to break the spell he had put on the country. So a price was put on Elijah's head. Orders went out that he was to be brought to Samaria at once, but nobody could find him. He had disappeared. Growing more and more desperate, the king sent messengers to Egypt, to Syria, to Mesopotamia, seeking Elijah. There was, in fact, no nation or kingdom where they didn't where they did not go in search of him. As the messengers returned, they all told the same story. They had failed their mission. There was no trace of Elijah anywhere. Nobody had seen him or heard of him. Where can the man be? Phoned, fumed Ahab. He must be somewhere. Find him. But they couldn't find him. Yet he wasn't far away. Not very far. And God knew where he was all the time. Then at the bottom it has what it kind of looked like down at the bottom. 2-pager. It just pretty much turned into a desert. And see out 2 years it didn't rain. So it said. Alright, and that was story 2. It's break time. Now we're going to break, and then I'll get to the next story in just a minute.